Hey everybody, it's Rockula, and welcome back to Rockula Retrospective. Now, if you're going to talk about animated films that were floating around in the early 80s, then you're going to need to talk about one film in particular. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk about a film that preceded heavy metal, and that was back in 1977, a film by Ralph Bakshi called Wizards. Wizards was a film that was making the rounds in the early 80s on both subscription and cable television, and also on the VHS rental market. And one of the big deals was you couldn't rent heavy metal on VHS, but you could get Wizards. It was in almost every store, and it had the really cool poster with Necron 99 on the poster. And then the other thing is, some of your friends had VCRs and could tape it off of either cable or subscription television. And then I actually got to see, I didn't get to see Wizards, but my dad did take me to see heavy metal in the theater along with Lord of the Rings and American Pop. But other than that, you just had to hear people talk to you about it. And the first time I even heard about heavy metal, some guy was telling me at South Padre Island one summer on vacation about this great movie called Heavy Metal. So it was hard to see heavy metal at the time, so most of us were really into Wizards because of a lack of exposure to heavy metal. The film starts with an intro narrated by the amazing voiceover talent of Susan Tyrrell. The story is that her management insisted her name be removed from the credits, and she later told Ralph Bakshi that Wizards garnered her more work and exposure than any other project she participated in.
An illuminating history bearing on the everlasting struggle for world supremacy, fought between the powers of technology and magic.
Terrorists have set off a nuclear bomb which results in the global thermonuclear war that nearly wipes out all life on the planet. The actual year that the war took place is never specified, but it takes 2 million years for the Earth to repopulate itself. Humans have mutated into all manner of subspecies, which allows the previous inhabitants of the Earth, the magical races such as fairies and elves, to flourish in areas that have not been affected by radiation. When twin wizards are born, one of them is affected by radiation and one is not. This defines the roles of the two brothers as they have their inevitable battle for control of the Earth.
When Avatar confronted Black Wolf, he was enraged. They began a furious battle, each using his magic. They continued until they had nearly destroyed each other. Black Wolf was defeated. The day will come, my brother, when I will return and make this a planet where mutants rule.
Pretty cool, huh? This film has all kinds of cool characters in it, amazing visuals, brutal fight scenes, and a really hot female fairy wearing next to nothing. So here's where I got confused.
I want to do a family film that had a heart that talks to kids in a real way. So Wizards was a very important challenge for me. If I could do a kids film with the same sort of emotion that people love, if I could do a kids film that doesn't lean on curse words, it doesn't have urban dialogue, which is real to urban films, I can't get, that it would validate why I did these other films. It was very easy for me to move into Wizards. I was very interested in doing a family film at this point because I had done adult films. And I didn't want to box myself in. There was nothing wrong with showing Disney in those days how to make good family films.
That's right. This was supposed to be a family movie. Now, like I said before, my dad took me to a lot of adult-themed movies in my time, but, he was a progressive-minded guy, and I can't really see people that would normally take their kids to see a Disney film go into this movie because of the adult themes.
don't you sit there for a couple hours while I figure it out?
Okay.
The fear of technology and nuclear war is the central focus of this film because it was conceived during both the Vietnam War and the Cold War. And the interesting thing is that usually people were more worried about the Russians starting a nuclear war than just a handful of terrorists. Bakshi spent his early years making cartoons for children at Terrytoons and quickly rose through the ranks through sheer audacity and ignoring the chain of command. After he left the company, he applied this attitude towards his first two films, Fritz the Cat and Heavy Traffic, neither which did too well. Then came his third film, Wizards, which changed everything. It may not have been a huge commercial success at first, but it did manage to change the entire complexion of animated films that appealed to adults. The two most notable animated films to follow Wizards would be Rock and Rule, as well as the aforementioned Heavy Metal. As far as the animation goes, Bakshi spoke of being influenced by underground comics, and the characters look like a combination of Heavy Metal magazine, which debuted in the same year, and the Freak Brothers. But what really caught my eye was Bakshi's use of rotoscoping, as well as his detailed backgrounds that today reminds me of line drawings, schematic diagrams, and Hieronymus Bosch. Here we see rotoscoping of World War II battle footage, as well as altering the appearance of characters in other old films to resemble demons. Here we even see Zulu demons. Bakshi says that most of his decisions were made based on lack of funding, which proves yet again that some of the most imaginative art is made under circumstances where people have to come up with stuff on the fly, and it ends up looking completely unique. Even when I first saw this film, I liked the fact that you could see that there were many different ideas being used instead of one seamless idea. I never cared much for Disney and their slick, overproduced style, but with Bakshi, you got several mediums on the screen at the same time. He would later explain that you could use different mediums to imply emotional content instead of pouring the visual equivalent of sugar all over the screen. So I've watched quite a few reviews on Wizards, and I've found that it's about a 50-50 split on people that like the film and people who don't like the film. And it seems that the reasons that I mentioned that I like the film seem to be the reasons why people who don't like the film don't like the film. And that's really cool for me because I like movies and art and all kinds of media that just, they split people right down the middle. Either you like it or you don't like it. So look for me to review some other Bakshi films in the future. I'm Rockula, and this is Rockula Retrospective.